looking for values. And these values are on the conservative side, and the ECR is the most genuine group, political group in Europe, which represents all these values of the nation, of the family, of the property, of the freedom, of subsidiarity, all these values that have been or forgotten or neglected or even punished by the social democracy and by the socialist movement, which is behind. Social democracy and socialism bring us to the same place like the other lefts that we know. The other lefts, we have a left which is vegan, we have a cannibalistic one, and we have a carnivore one, but all of them bring us to the same point of lack of freedom, of really having equality without liberty, and that brings us to tyranny. In this sense, we have now the great chance on the 9th of June to expand our force in an incredible way. There's no precedent of the situation we get now, because for the first time, there is a real possibility of having a majority on the right of the PP. And the PP will have no excuse that there are no majorities on his right, and so he has to be continuously making pacts and policy with the socialists and doing socialist policy, what the People's Party has been doing in the last 25 years. For the first time in June, we can get a majority which defends values, which defends family, which defends life, which defends borders, which defends an intelligent and reasonable way of approaching immigration and deportation, and the much needed deportation, and create a new reality. And for this reality and for expanding the ECR, I think we have many challenges. I think we will have people from the People's Party coming to the ECR and from other places, but we have other parties in Europe that are joining and want to join the ECR to create this big force on the conservative right, a very solid one, and we want not to compromise with socialism. We want to abolish socialism and do the contrary, the opposite of what socialism does. In this sense, and that I finish with this, I wanted only to greet our colleagues who are participating in this panel and say we have a great future. We have to look at the future not with despair, as some days we are tempted to, but we have to look at the future with an enormous hope that what has been done in Italy by Giorgia Meloni, what we want to do very soon with Santiago Abascal in Spain, what we want all over the places in Europe, to get a national party, a party which has values, defends values, come to power, be in charge, and really get these values into the direct life, into the daily life of the Europeans and of our daily, as I say, our societies and our daily life. We need it very, very, very strongly, and I think the hope is very, very, very big. Thank you very much to everybody.
Grazie Herman. Io passerei quindi a un po' di domande per i nostri ospiti. La prima è: qual è la vostra esperienza politica nei vostri paesi? Cominciamo lei.
Grazie. Allora, all'inizio vorrei ringraziare ECR e i nostri ospiti italiani per l'invito. Sono onorato e molto contento di essere stasera a Roma. Ma, cari amici, sarà più facile per me parlare in inglese. So I'm very happy to be here on this panel, and I want to say hello especially to Herman. We were just in Buenos Aires together for the inauguration of Javier Milei, and here we are in Rome. So very glad that you made it as well. I come from Croatia. I represent a relatively young, new conservative party called the Homeland Movement, Domovinski Pokret in Croatian. Croatia is still, I would say, struggling with the legacy of its past. We've been a democratic country for 30 years and a member of the EU for 10. But the reality is that the left, in many ways, former communists in our case, control public opinion. They have maintained their privileged positions in academia, in the media, and I'm sure you're familiar here in Italy with Gramsci's vision of hegemony, cultural hegemony. So this is what we're dealing with in politics, that it's sometimes a hostile environment, not just in Croatia, but in many other places. My main message is that it's important to win elections. I think next June, there's a good chance, as Herman said, that the right, the conservative side will rise. I think that EPP has unfortunately become part of the problem, not part of the solution for Europe. But the reality is that we must take culture seriously as well, culture. And that's why it's a very encouraging sign to see so many young people here at this event in Italy. We must learn from the left also in this case. The left takes culture very seriously. Just imagine what the world would be like if people like ourselves controlled the publishing world and Hollywood. But that's not the case. And so we have to, in many ways, organize these kinds of events frequently to get to know each other, to collaborate. I, as a politician, like to think that I'm representing the interests of my local voters. There was a very good article written by a British writer, David Goodhart, where he basically argues that there's two categories, main categories of people in today's world. The so-called somewheres and anywheres. The somewheres are people rooted in a concrete place, connected with their families, and they have legitimate interests that are closely tied to where they live. And it's usually, of course, the country they love. And on the other side, there's the anywheres. And this category is what we commonly refer to as the globalists, people who can work from anywhere around the world. And over time, these people develop their own interests, which are also legitimate, but are often opposed to what we believe in. So I would say I believe in a Europe of national countries that have their sovereignty, that jealously hold to their own interests and their borders. I think Europe has learned a bitter lesson that multiculturalism does not work. It has failed everywhere miserably, and we must act before it's too late. We must also take religion seriously. I entered politics because I don't apologize for being pro-life. I believe that life needs to be protected without exception from the very beginning, from conception to natural death. I also believe in the natural family and in marriage between a man and a woman. We must defend these truths and the truth about every human person. We must fight the hostile ideologies that are threatening these basic truths, like gender ideology, and not yield an inch to the left when it comes to these questions, not yield an inch. So we're very encouraged with the leadership of Prime Minister Meloni. I congratulate you on this great event, and I look forward to a discussion. Hopefully there'll be time for some interaction. Thank you very much.
Mr. Pedro. Mr. Pedro? Okay.
First of all, thank you for inviting us. I represent political party MOST, in translation Bridge, from Croatia. I agree to many key points that Stjepo just said, but for me it's more important to live for values, not to be threatened with the other side. I have to know my opponent, my enemy. I have to know their strengths, their aims. But for me, more important is for what I'm standing for. We are standing for family values, and that's the reason why I'm glad to be here, because it's pleasant to be among people who live family conservative values, such as you are. And it's a rarity when you look reality. I have to say that Croatia is still a safe country. Croatia is still a country where majority of people are living family values. Okay, there are opponents, there are ideologies that are trying to change that. So it's also good that we have some political friends that are trying to do the same things that we are trying to do, save our family values. Also, the aim of our political party is direct democracy. We want that decisions that are made are as possible as they can to reflect the will of people. So that's the reason why we promote direct democracy, why we promote referendums, why we have done it during COVID. And that's our biggest win last 3 years, because they were trying to steal our individual rights, our individual freedom. Also, we are trying to fight against corruption. We are trying also to work for free market economy and many other things. But the most important thing and the foundation of our political fight, of our lives, are family values. That's also foundation, I would say, foundation of the world. Thank you.
Grazie. Ora vedo collegato Michael Collins. Chiederei anche a lui di parlarci un po' della sua esperienza politica. Grazie.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes,
hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Indeed. Michael Collins is my name. I'm the leader of the new Independent Ireland party that has been registered in the last 2 weeks. I suppose my own political experience is I was 25 years working in the community as a community activist. In 2014, I entered into politics. Always, I suppose, focused at, being working in the community, you had that connection with what really was the issues in your community. And we had gone from being maybe a country that was doing well to a serious recession. And I joined politics in 2014 in local politics. And in 2016, I got elected to our own Irish Parliament. I suppose I was from 2016 to 2020 with a group setting. I felt that maybe to get the issues that are of serious concern to this country across the line. We needed a party. I spoke to different individuals, and myself and Richard O'Donoghue, a TD from a politician from Limerick. We set up a party recently. We've been putting in place our policies and our mission statement, and we've been speaking to quite a lot of other politicians too. It seems to have taken up a lot of interest in locally, and there's local elections next year, and there's the European elections next year. We will have a serious amount of candidates for the local elections, and we'll have candidates also for the European elections. But at the moment, our focus is on the policies, make sure we put in a good foundation. Also, our focus is to try and bring in fellow parliamentarians. So we have been around the table with a number of those. I think we'll be announcing extra TDs, as we call ourselves, parliamentarians, I'd say in the next number of weeks, maybe slightly before Christmas, if not after Christmas. So a lot of work going on in relation to the formation of the party. I think we have an awful lot of problems here, a lot of issues in this country that are not being addressed, like immigration. A recent poll in Ireland said 75% of people said we have done a lot, had done too much and enough. Now, I always feel that we should, help other countries, yes, but we've overdone that, and there's a lot of anger here. Anger in local communities and anger that shouldn't have been there. It was badly handled by our government. So I think we need a new approach. We weren't even allowed to speak about this in Parliament until last week, and we forced the issue, and now there's changes coming. We also have issues in relation to climate. Yes, climate is an issue that we need to take seriously, but the parties in government at the moment are attacking quite a lot of the rural parts of Ireland, and the rural parts of Ireland are up in anger, especially with agriculture. We also have to look at areas like fisheries, housing, health. Like if I speak about fisheries, I could go on here forever because we haven't got our fair share of the quotas of our own waters. And we seem to be quite happy with leaving every other country that wants a share of our quota to take our quota. I think in relation to Europe, we will be obviously supportive of Europe, but we want a change of mindset, that we want to challenge Europe. And I think up to now, Ireland has just been as we call it, the yes boys in Europe. We're looking to see, can we make changes there and make our presence be felt there? Because as I said, in fisheries and in agriculture and other areas, Ireland is getting more and more angered with the results that are coming from Europe, and there's a disconnect between our European parliamentarians, or the MEPs, and the Irish MEPs, and that's not good enough. And that's why we want to run very serious candidates in Europe that would have family values, that would also have a very serious focus on agriculture and fisheries, because that is Ireland is made up of quite a lot of that, and that's where we need to work on. And okay, it's early days. I'm quite hopeful that with the frustration that's there with the current parties in Ireland at the moment, that we could take a huge share of a vote in the next election. Now that's local elections and European Parliament elections, and after that, then we have our own Parliament elections, which should be in about 12 months. So look, I apologies that I'm not with you tonight. I would love to be with you. You were not so long ago, you were in Kilkenny with us, and we had a very interesting weekend, but we'll be working very close with you going forward.
Grazie, Mr. Collins.
Thank you.
Αγαπητοί συνέδροι, καλησπέρα. Ονομάζομαι Χρήστος Χρήστου, είμαι ο πρόεδρος του ΕΛΑΜ. Να σας ευχαριστήσουμε ιδιαίτερα για αυτήν την πρόσκληση, ειδικά την ηγεσία του ECR και τους αδελφούς της Ιταλίας, οι οποίοι μας φιλοξενούν στη Ρώμη, στην αιώνια πόλη. Το Εθνικό Λαϊκό Μέτωπο δημιουργήθηκε το 2008 λόγω της ανάγκης να αντιμετωπιστούν θέματα και προβλήματα στην πολιτική σκηνή της Κύπρου, με τα οποία οι υπόλοιπες πολιτικές δυνάμεις είτε αδιαφορούσαν, είτε δεν ήθελαν να αντιμετωπίσουν. Το 2016 εισήλθαμε στο Κυπριακό Κοινοβούλιο ως το 8ο πολιτικό κόμμα. Ήταν μια βουλή από 8 κόμματα τότε. Και το 2021 καταφέραμε να είμαστε η 4η πολιτική δύναμη της χώρας. Σήμερα και εν ώψη των ευρωεκλογών καταγράφουμε μια συνεχιζόμενη αύξηση των ποσοστών μας και αυτό δείχνει ότι η κοινωνία έχει ανάγκη από συντηρητικές, πατριωτικές δυνάμεις οι οποίες θα ορίσουν ξανά έναν πλαίσιο προς το συμφέρον του απλού λαού και της κοινωνίας. Αντιμετωπίζουμε μια σειρά από σημαντικά προβλήματα, τα οποία και άλλες ευρωπαϊκές χώρες αντιμετωπίζουν, με κυριότερον αυτή τη στιγμή το θέμα της παράνομης μετανάστευσης. Είμαστε το ανατολικότερο σύνορο της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης και ένα χαρακτηριστικό παράδειγμα για να αντιληφθείτε το πρόβλημα είναι πως τη δεδομένη χρονική περίοδο μόνον ο αριθμός των αιτητών ασύλου στην Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία αντιστοιχεί στο 7% του πληθυσμού της. Έναν άλλο σοβαρό πρόβλημα το οποίο αντιμετωπίζει η Κύπρος είναι βεβαίως η συνεχιζόμενη τουρκική εισβολή και κατοχή του 40% της χώρας. Επίσης, αντιμετωπίζουμε θέματα οικονομίας, όπως και οι υπόλοιπες ευρωπαϊκές κοινωνίες, που όλα αυτά μαζί συνθέτουν έναν ιδιαίτερο περιβάλλον. Ο στόχος ο δικός μας είναι μέσα από τον πολιτικό αγώνα, τον οποίο διεξάγουμε, να καταφέρουμε να αλλάξουμε τις πολιτικές που μέχρι σήμερα εφαρμόζονται σε αυτά τα ζητήματα. Δεν μπορούμε, παραδείγματος χάρη, να ανεχόμαστε μια αριστερά η οποία προσπαθεί κυρίως μέσα από την παιδεία και των έλεγχων μέσω κοινωνικής δικτύωσης να καταστρέψει στην ουσία τη νέα γενιά, βάζοντάς της το μικρόβιο της αριστεράς και της ατζέντας, την οποία η ίδια προωθεί σε ευρωπαϊκό και παγκόσμιο επίπεδο αυτή τη στιγμή. Θεωρούμε ότι βρισκόμαστε σε ένα πολύ καλό σημείο και το παράδειγμα της Ιταλίας, της Ιταλικής κυβέρνησης και της κυρίας Μελώνη μας εμπνέει να συνεχίσουμε αυτόν τον αγώνα. Πιστεύουμε στην ευρωπαϊκή συνεργασία, όχι όμως ως αποτέλεσμα των αυθαίρετων πολιτικών οι οποίες καθορίζονται στις Βρυξέλλες, αλλά πάνω σε υγιείς βάσεις να διατηρήσουμε την ταυτότητα των λαών μας, να επενδύσουμε στη συνεργασία μεταξύ όμορων δυνάμεων και να δουλέψουμε όλοι μαζί για έναν πραγματικά λαμπρό μέλλον της Ευρώπης. Σας ευχαριστούμε και πάλι για τη φιλοξενία και θα ήταν μεγάλη χαρά για μας στο μέλλον να φιλοξενήσουμε ένα αντίστοιχο συνέδριο στην Κύπρο.
Grazie. Mr. Mukachu.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your invitation. I'm representing a Romanian party. We have 10% of the votes in the Romanian parliament, and we are the only opposition party who are against the establishment, the European-inspired establishment who brings all the evil of the European Union in our country, in our legislation, in our administrative practices. So my party name is the Alliance for Union of Romanians, and we have 4 values like nation, family, liberty, and faith. However, we are on the vein of the conservative, the 20th century conservative, after the conservative mind of Russell Clark, all this Anglo-Saxon conservative ideology who brought Goldwater, Ronald Reagan, the conservative movement is now established. We are not an ideology. On the contrary, we are against the ideology. And because I'm a physician, I really like one of the words that says conservative is the immunity system against all those ideological constructs that were imposed on nations. And starting for our fathers, or conservative fathers, Burke, who criticized the French Revolution, and we saw how that ended the French Revolution. So we are against everything that is an abstract construct imposed on the society. We don't want to see experiments in the society. In the 20th century, we have seen enough. Communism, fascism, the Chinese Cultural Revolution. In all those, people died because of abstract construct. We are against that. We adhere to those 6 canons of Mr. Russell, and faith is one of our important things. It's for us, there is no society without natural law, without God. There is no moral without a Christian moral. Because if you look at the society right now, the most important fight is to keep our morals. A society that has no morals has no frame. And we are, if we look at the opponents, for them, the space between individual and the state is closing in. They have like an ideology that says that it has to bring a certain social justice, but doing so, it's making everybody even. I live under the communist regime, and I know what communism means. There is no equality between people. Instead of, we are equal in front of God and in front of court, but in society we are not equal. And if we try to do that, that's socialism. So we believe strongly that we have a mission, and our mission is now. We have a song that says, now or never, because if we don't win this next election, what we are facing now is a order that tries to govern the whole world. It's called universal governance. Other people call it universal government, but look in every single place in international, World Health Organization, they try to bring up the World Treaty, the Pandemic Treaty, and to change the rules to make the people who run the World Health Organization be the only one to decide on the policies of every single country. And that's not right, because there is no liberty without sovereignty. People in European Union who decide things that are completely against the nations, against the economy, they are not liable. They are not, you can't have them lose elections because they are not elected. Again, there is no liberty without sovereignty. So for us, for the conservatives, this space between individual and state, we try to keep the space. In other words, we try to have all the institutions, the freedom of religion, everything that will not force an individual to adopt the majority rule. And that's what I believe is the beauty of conservatism. We have to keep it because right now, everything is against us. They have the economic power, financial power, they have the mass media. It's mind-boggling to see that everything they say, it's the opposite of reality. The truth is to the point that every truth is changed the other way. Now they have the fact checkers, they are checking us. And that's totally unacceptable. Therefore, I believe that is the last train that we can have to defeat this monster of ideology, of left collectivist ideology. Because if we don't, then it's gonna get upon us this digital cage that they are preparing for us. So we do our part. We fight, because if we don't win, it's gonna be a bleak future.
Grazie. Un'altra domanda alla quale però vi prego di rispondere brevemente, così possiamo farne altre. Qual è il vostro programma per cambiare l'Europa? In parte lo avete già detto. Prego.
So I would try to be brief. Europe needs change. We have a situation today where many of the leading figures in Brussels would probably consider the founding fathers of Europe, Adenauer, Schuman, De Gasperi, as extremists. They would be out of the mainstream in today's world of Brussels. And so things have gone in the wrong direction for far too long. I myself, as a conservative, am very suspicious of concentrated power. We must oppose every attempt from Brussels to gain more control over our lives, especially by unelected bureaucrats. That's something we must keep in mind at all times. Concentrated power is obviously easily abused. So I'm opposed to this federal vision of Europe, always integrating deeper and deeper. I think we have to rethink how the European Union works in the future. Certainly there are benefits to collaborating. I think the common market is a very beneficial thing. I'm for a liberal economy, obviously, for limited government, less regulation. I think the Green Deal includes many threats to our freedoms. In my view, it's just the latest justification for a permanent bureaucracy and big government, the Green Deal, and it's very expensive, and it hurts the poor. There's no controversy about this question. It hurts the poor, the poorest of the poor. And so we, as people who want to serve the common good, must recognize before it's too late what are these threats. And so, again, I am for collaboration. I'm for a Europe of nation states that have a right to their sovereignty. I think we need to be bold and defend these principles. Sometimes leaders in the European Union who defend these principles are quite isolated and alone. They don't have allies, and it's very difficult. But if we persevere and collaborate, as I said, I think we will win. Again, these eternal truths about the human person are under threat in today's world. I agree that the media and what we see around us is distorting reality on a daily basis, distorting reality. So first, we must be clear in defending reality, defending these truths, and then, of course, fighting in the political arena for these ideas. But again, conservatives cannot ever accept concentrations of power, people who are far removed from ordinary citizens throughout Europe. And so I think Brussels, Catholics in Croatian refer to Brussels as Mordor, if you're familiar with the Lord of the Rings, Mordor. So it's become really a place with an army of bureaucrats, 50,000 of them, who have their own vested interests, and we must be aware of this. We cannot be naive. So thank you.
Grazie. Mr. Petro.
Thank you. Just a little comment on a previous elaboration. I think every fight is a last fight. Okay? And with that attitude, you can always give more. And I'm not afraid of it. I enjoy in battles. For us, for a bridge, for a most, a political party from Croatia, I think that the biggest problem of European Union is that they forgot the foundation of European Union, the start and ideas of European Union in the beginning. And that's the something that we have to change and we have to bring back. In the main aspect are conservative values. The second thing, we are trying to stop the power or to limit a power of supranational bodies. We want that decisions that are made are as possible as they can be made to the citizens to which they are affected. Also, I think that we have to be for free market economy, but also for less bureaucratic European Union, more accountable European Union. But above all of this, I think that family values are our main fight, because it's the fight of our lives.
Grazie, Mr. Pedro. Mr. Christ.
Νομίζω ο τρόπος με τον οποίο λειτουργεί αυτή τη στιγμή η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση έχει ήδη αποτύχει. Πρέπει να προχωρήσουμε στη μετεξέλιξη αυτού του μοντέλου βασιζόμενοι στον ευρωρεαλισμό. Δηλαδή, πιστεύουμε ακράδαντα στη συνεργασία μεταξύ των ευρωπαϊκών εθνών, αλλά όλοι μας να κρατήσουμε την ταυτότητά μας, τις παραδόσεις μας, τις ρίζες μας και να εξελίξουμε ένα νέο οικονομικό μοντέλο με το οποίο θα επωφελούνται οι χώρες και οι λαοί μας και όχι μόνο κάποια συγκεκριμένα συμφέροντα. Μέσα λοιπόν σε αυτά τα πλαίσια, η συνεργασία που απαιτείται από όλους μας όσοι βρισκόμαστε σήμερα σε αυτήν την αίθουσα και σε αυτό το συνέδριο πρέπει να είναι αρμονική. Πιστεύω πως το μέλλον μας ανήκει εάν αυτή η συνεργασία εφαρμοστεί στην πράξη, επειδή οι λαοί μας έχουν ανάγκη αυτή την αλλαγή και επειδή οι λαοί μας θα επιβιώσουν μόνο με αυτή την αλλαγή.
Grazie. Mr. Mucaccio.
Well, I have a different opinion about the history of European Union. And the reason I'm saying that is because the architect of the coal and steel union between France and Germany was actually a surveillance strategy for France to survey the Ruhr Basin in Germany. So he realized that there is no way to come back to the situation of World War I when Germany was humiliated, and therefore he, as a governor of this region, was thinking, how am I gonna keep the German side honest? So this union came about. But then you have to understand, Mr. Monnet was a survivor of World War I, World War II, and the Spanish War. So he has two principles, and those principles are very important because they are still in the European Union. The first principle was never again war in Europe, because the Europeans are the masters of killing each other. So that was first. But second one was no democracy in the European construct. And the reason for that was Hitler and Mussolini were duly elected. So he constructed this European Union, and he went to United States in 1953 at the press conference, at the press club in Washington, D.C., and the American oligarchy asked him a very basic question. How are you going to convince the European leaders to follow a construct like the United States Federation? And his answer is still ringing in the European Union walls. And some of the European Union leaders said the same thing. And his answer was, I will apply the policy of little steps. We're going to give them a little economic incentive, and we're going to take a little bit of sovereignty. That's how they constructed. If you look to Mr. Trichet, to the German leaders, you'll find the same, to chip off little by little your sovereignty. It's unacceptable for us. This has to stop, because we believe in a Westphalian Europe, a Europe of nations, cooperation, non-conflict, resolve the conflict, unique market, but we do not want to be a federation. We don't want to be a new USSR. I live in communist era, and I can tell you, they don't hide. They call those people commissars. It's obvious that their philosophy is the same. Collectivist ideology, basically it's communism again. We don't want to see communism again. At least my generation, we won't. Thank you.
Grazie. Ringrazio tutti per I loro contributi.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Now, I wanted to only to say that, to thank everybody, and I'm very pleased to see that we all agree on the threats, and the threats of this way, this different soft way to communism, soft way to socialism, in different ways, but always with the same final goal, to have us all as kind of interchangeable individuals who are worthless themselves and have no criteria. And it's very true that we made in this 5 years of von der Leyen, we made an enormous step in the wrong direction. That is very, very true. This social engineering with the Green Pact and all what means the Agenda 2030 is really perverse. What we are seeing now, what we are seeing in Europe, what we are seeing in different commissions, like the committees of envy in what they call environment. It's ideology, it's pure ideology, marking the path and cutting short liberties. Every week we have, and every time we vote in this parliament, in this European Parliament, we are voting permanently now. We are voting sometimes in the plenaries. Now we are voting 3 days. We are continuously voting regulations and reports and everything, all kinds of regulations that then have committees for these regulations. I mean, it's a bureaucracy that grows and grows like a monster in this Mordor, as you said. But so it is the moment. It is the moment to say stop and to break it up. And we don't need a European government. And von der Leyen has been acting as a European government, punishing governments, giving benefits to some governments. We have the worst government today in questions of rule of law is in Spain. They are violating the constitution. They are a bunch in this moment. We have, and I regret to say it, a bunch of criminals under Pedro Sánchez in Spain. So, and nothing has happened. He received loads of money, thousands, tens of thousands of millions of euros. We don't have the slightest idea what they are. They don't report. There's no transparency, and nobody in the Commission, nobody's complaining. And we have seen on the opposite side, we have seen the punishing only because of ideology, or the punishing of countries. That's why I think this government, what they are putting up in the Commission is really our enemy, and is the enemy of all the nations in Europe. Thank you.
Grazie Mr. Teres, grazie a tutti voi. La parola a Antonio Giordano.
So, thank you to all our new friends, and we hope in a short time our members. And now, with a big applause, we are going to have a nice toast and panettone from Italy. Thank you. Thank you.
Grazie Antonio.